May you lead with courage when the path is unclear. May you listen for what wants to emerge, even in the quiet. May you remember that the wisdom you seek is already within you and also among you. May your leadership be an act of love, your presence a source of grounding, and your vision a light for the path ahead. Lead not to control, but to liberate. Lead not to be followed, but to walk together. This is the work. This is the way. This is leadership in the age of wisdom.
Hey everyone, it's Lynn Durham, and you're listening to Create Magic at Work. Create Magic at Work is on a mission to equip senior leaders with tools they need to be a true quantum leader and actually understand what that means. Improve employee engagement, retain top talent, and transform your workplace culture to have less drama and stress. So let's start making magic. And that, my friends, was Brian Gorman, the author of Leading into the Age of Wisdom. Brian Gorman is a change leadership expert, author, speaker, circle keeper, and trusted advisor to executives and organizations navigating disruption. With decades of experience guiding leaders through transformation, he integrates neuroscience, storytelling, and collective wisdom practices to help organizations thrive in complexity. He has coached hundreds of leaders globally and is known for his ability to blend head, heart, and gut in practical ways that inspire action and sustain change. Brian recently published Leading into the Age of Wisdom, Reimagining the Future of Work, taking a look at how leaders can use artificial intelligence as a catalyst for creating more humane organizations. Brian, welcome to Create Magic at Work.
Let's create some magic, Amy.
Yes, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. We should probably let everybody know we are both certified Edgewalker facilitators, and that is how we met. We are freshly home from a trip to Fayetteville, Arkansas, where we spent quite a few days together in an amazing Edgewalker retreat. Some of the conversation there was reimagining what work looks like and the future of work. And we've had a lot of conversations on Create Magic at Work about how work can look differently. One thing I loved about your book is that you're claiming that we are moving into an age of wisdom. And I was like, wow, that's pretty bold for Brian to come out and say, hey, we are moving into an age of wisdom, and here's some ideas on how to lead into this age of wisdom. I thought it was a really cool, positive claim, and definitely an Edgewalker claim, that creative, positive visualization. One of the things that struck me in the book, in the beginning of the book, was when you were differentiating between AI, artificial intelligence, and wisdom. And so I kind of wanted to start off there, because you take your book through 3 parts, and the first part is reclaiming the human core. So for everyone listening, can you start us off with differentiating between artificial intelligence and wisdom? Because I know I keep going on and on here, but the reason why I'm really wanting to dive into this is because spiritual intelligence is a big theme with Create Magic at Work and the work that we do from a faith-neutral lens. And there are 2 components in SQ that are kind of practicing the skills kind of funnel up to. And it's being able to lead with wisdom and compassion. And Harvard Business Review recently came out with a research article that said, hey, if you want to cure burnout, we need leaders that can lead with wisdom and compassion. You have to have both. You can't just have compassion. You can't just have wisdom. You have to have both. And so now your book's out saying, hey, we're moving into this age of wisdom. And I'm sure that some people listening, including myself, are kind of like, okay, what do you mean by that? What's the difference between artificial intelligence and what we need to do, which is reclaim this human core?
So if we take intelligence as the encyclopedia of all the knowledge that we have, and even encyclopedia is an ancient term these days, it's maybe the Wikipedia. You and I, if we know how to write the prompts, if we have access to the databases, our IQ doesn't matter anymore because we have all of the intelligence of big data at our fingertips. What does matter is what we do with it. And what we do with that is driven by wisdom. I'll give you a very basic example, and then we can dive into more detail. One of my clients explained it this way to me not too long ago. He said, my father gave me the intelligence to know that tomato is a fruit. He also shared with me the wisdom to not put it in fruit salad. Wisdom is the discernment, the judgment, the ethical decisions, all of those things about what we do with the data, what we do with that information. And so this was what, Amy, really sparked this book in me, because the louder voice right now is a dystopian future of artificial intelligence replacing people in the workplace. And what that ignores is the fact that even if that person is a frontline worker who is meeting customers at a cash register, they have wisdom about the customer. They have wisdom about the product. And sending everybody to the self-checkout line deprives the organization of that wisdom if it chooses otherwise to access it.
Mm. By the way, cashier was my first job when I was 18 years old. I learned so much in that job, just throwing that out there. But thank you for using that story with that. I want to share one of my favorite passages from your book on this, on intelligence versus wisdom, that struck me. And you write, intelligence is able to win the argument. It takes the wisdom of empathy and relational judgment to preserve the relationship while finding common ground. And I thought, there it is. That one really struck me. The wisdom to find common ground with another human, to have that relational judgment. Yes, we can probably type into artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and get all sorts of intelligence on how to win an argument. But is that really our goal overall for humans? That one point really struck me as differentiating between intelligence and wisdom. Something else you brought up that you were just sharing that I wanted to get into was people operating from a place of fear that AI is going to take their job. Because in your book, which again, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's claiming we are going into the age of wisdom. And you also claim that there is a talent shortage right now. And I was like, well, that really flips the script on people that are saying there isn't anything out there and that AI is taking their jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So what are you talking about when you're saying there's a talent shortage right now?
Without getting deep into the political environment, where we are very intentionally limiting the inflow of talent from outside of the U.S., the population of people coming into the workforce is declining. The nature of work, the expectations of the workforce, the skills needed of the workforce is changing at an ever accelerating pace. Those two factors together, leave us not in a surplus of talent, but in a shortage of talent.
So I'm driving to work, and my company just announced that AI is taking over everything, some sort of automation that like I used to do. What do I do next? How do I help myself to tap into, if someone's listening, to tap into where that talent shortage is and to empower myself leading into the age of wisdom?
Well, I would invite you, Amy, to not wait for that announcement, because now there's going to be a gap. Let me give you a real life example. I just started coaching a master's in accounting student who will be graduating in May. And he said to me, I'm afraid there will not be a career path for me when I graduate because AI will be doing the accounting. AI may well be able to do any accounting that a freshly graduated master's in accounting can do. What AI can't do is say, let's say for a moment that newly minted accountant was hired by Create Magic at Work. What that even that newly minted accountant is able to do is to take what AI produces, what he would have spent hours and hours and hours and hours producing, to take that information, to take that intelligence, and to sit down with Amy and say, let's see how you use this to move your business forward. We all need to let go of the assumption that the jobs that we hold, the skills that have gotten us where we are now, are sufficient to carry us forward. Let's go back to your scenario a moment, Amy. If the job you were driving to feeds your family, gives you a paycheck, and psychically, spiritually drains you every day, don't wait until it goes away. Start now to figure out what it is that makes your heart sing, and start looking at how can you move into that world even in the time of artificial intelligence.
The example that you just shared, where the accountant can shift from doing all like the data entry work, I guess I would call it, to interpreting it for the client's best interest. It's kind of how I'm echoing back what you said. To me, really paints that picture of leading with wisdom over intelligence. And I'm trying to wrap my brain around the shift myself. How is this going to look for all of us? And I think more stories like that are really helpful. There's another piece in your book, Leading into the Age of Wisdom. I just really like how you're claiming that we are going into an age of wisdom. I just want to keep saying it. There's another piece of your book that talks about how we have to rethink. And I've really feel like I've started playing with this in the entrepreneur space. And I'm curious how this is going to look for the future of work in the corporate space and in organizations, because another thing you talk about that, again, I'm trying to grapple with or wrap my brain around is rethinking time and shifting ourselves from measuring time and being paid for our time to something else, to what else is possible. Because you also talk about the 4-day work week a little bit, and how we will fully shift into results driven type of work rather than time measured work. And I'm still like, well, that works for salary people. How is that going to work for people being able to pay their bills, maybe on an hourly pay basis, if it's all time bound? I'd love to hear what you sense for that future of work where we're not measuring time for because I've started understanding that as an entrepreneur, right? And especially as an executive coach, like you are paying for not this hour session, but for all of this past work experience, this past training, et cetera, that we are bringing to you. Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling and let you share what you think of everything I just said.
Okay, let me start with the moving away from time as I measure productivity. I'm going to ask you to be candid with me, Amy.
Okay.
When you were employed, when you were being paid hourly or salaried, did you ever sit at your desk and make like you were being productive to keep your boss off your back? I did.
Okay. I don't know if I ever made like I was being productive at my desk because I was a remote worker anyway. But I will say that like I geographically traveled, and so I didn't really have anybody kind of like watching over me. But absolutely, like the emails that you send, the CCing. But okay, so let me get even more out of the workspace. You know what really felt like I was getting away with something at times was if I would take a personal appointment during the workday. It was like, yes, I'd rather do this during the workday than on my time off. I have a dentist appointment. I have a doctor's appointment. I have, that felt really good on salary. And I can say as an entrepreneur, that's been harder for me to do because it's my own, it's my business I'm running. So I'm like, ooh, I put off that dentist appointment. But yeah, to your point, there's definitely times in my day that I wasn't productive.
The case that I make in the book is that it isn't time that produces the result, it's energy. It's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual energy. Going back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, if I am doing what makes my heart sing, time becomes irrelevant. I can look up 5 hours later and say, where did the time go? If I'm doing some mundane task that my employer, if I had an employer, had assigned to me, I can have that same I've been at this forever kind of feeling and look up and it's been 10 minutes. Work is produced through our energy. Give me a task. Give me something that really drives my passion and give me the space to put my energy into it. And the result will outpace anything that you could expect by saying, I need this at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So what I'm advocating for is to become much more energy conscious rather than time conscious from an organizational perspective.
Hey everyone, Amy here. Let's talk about work realities for a second. Whether you're dealing with a tough boss, struggling with team miscommunication, feeling stuck in decision making, let's be real, work drama exists and it's exhausting, but it doesn't have to be this way. At Create Magic at Work, we help leaders like you cut through the chaos, build next level communication skills, and make better, faster decisions without the stress spiral. Whether you're leading a team or just trying to keep your sanity at work, we've got your back. We coach executives and teams like yours to develop interpersonal savvy, drive engagement, and bring your vision and purpose to life so work actually feels energizing again. Imagine that. More engagement, more productivity, less drama. Our executive coaching team has been in your shoes. We've led teams, navigated workplace challenges, and know what it takes to help you succeed and achieve your goals. Real experience, real talk, and real results. If you're thinking, yes, Amy, we need this at my work, then let's talk. Click the link in the show notes and let us help you and your teams become a high-performing, engaged, and productive force of clarity and calm. I'll see you in the Zoom room. Let's throw the stress and drama out the window. Click on the link in the show notes.
I'll be very candid. I have not worked out all of the details, if you will, of executing all of this stuff. And I talk about the fact that we are going into uncharted territory in many ways. There will still need to be shifts for hospitals and police and fire and those things that need 24-hour coverage. there will still need to be some time frame, if you will, where customer service is available, whether that's at the cash register or at call centers or whatever. I'm not saying that time becomes totally irrelevant, but what I am saying is, again, if you have a call center that requires some real high-level mental energy, and I'm a night person, don't schedule me at 8 a.m. at that call center. You're not going to get the best of it. So it really is about rethinking very broadly how we measure productivity, how we schedule work, and so forth. And then you mentioned the 4-day work week. So let me just touch on that. I am the co-owner of the 4-day work week trademark here in the U.S. And the bad news is the trademark registration was approved about, I guess, a week or two after COVID shut down work across America. So nobody really cared at the time about the 4-day work week. But the argument was not to take 40 hours and put it into 4 days. It was not to say everybody should work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday through Friday, or whatever. The case was made that the trademark registration was approved on the premise that one can reduce the amount of time going into work and pay the same salary and get the same or better output while still allowing flexibility in scheduling based on the needs of the organization, the needs of the customer, and the needs of the individual worker. So for Mary, that may mean working Monday through Thursday. For Tom, in the same workplace, it may mean working shorter days, 5 days a week, so that he is available when his kids come home from school. It is, again, delivering a more humane workplace, not by saying you have no accountability for getting your work done, not by saying you're going to work less and we're going to pay you less, but by being very intentional in creating a much more flexible approach to the work week. 40 hours, Monday through Friday. Say thank you, Henry Ford.
I saw that in your book, yeah.
That comes out of his research on how to most efficiently, most effectively build Model T cars.
And it's interesting how everyone's just sort of does it and doesn't question it. And I like your distinction of doing the less time-bound measurement for the same pay as long as the productivity is there, because I could see that, immediately feel, well, you're working less, so we're going to pay you less. You're working less time, so we're going to pay you less. And so it's this whole shift that we have to start embracing and kind of, getting our minds around, that we are now cultivating or becoming skill builders in wisdom and not managers of systems. So towards part 3 of your book, you talk about leadership no longer being hierarchical, what that could look like. You talk about wisdom circles. And I think those two things contribute to us skill building in that wisdom space. Can you talk a little bit about what that could look like? Because I'm really stretching us here at Create Magic at Work. Like, how can we sense this future of that we're moving into an age of wisdom, put fear aside, and now it's like, oh, let me start skill building in this wisdom space and start kind of creatively, positively visualizing what could be with all of this instead of operating from maybe a little bit of fear or anxiety.
So a couple of things that are important in response to what you're asking about. The first is nobody is smarter than everybody. If there are 2 people in the room, one is smarter than the other. Yes. But collectively, they are smarter than either of them alone. Collectively, they have more wisdom than either of them alone. And we are programmed almost from birth. I am preschool myself, but I watch these parents struggling to get their children into the best preschool so that eventually they will get into the best private school, so eventually they will get into the best university. We need to stop that, because you can get in the best preschool, the best school, the best university, and when you get in the room with somebody else, they may be smarter, and if they're not, the two of you together are smarter. They may be wiser, and if not, the two of you together are wiser. And the complexity of the world today, the complexity of the challenges, the opportunities, says nobody can figure it all out on their own. So that's the first part. The second part is back to when Amy was a cashier. I guarantee you, if your employer tapped into the wisdom that you had, and I don't know what type of business it was, but they would have been able to improve their customer satisfaction. They would have been able to improve the products or the services that they were offering. Wisdom comes in at all levels of the organization. And so that brings us to wisdom circles. And wisdom circles are not about solving problems. Wisdom circles are not the same as masterminds. People come together in masterminds to help get others to help them find solutions to how to move forward. Wisdom circle comes together as a place to step out of the noise and to focus on cultivating shared wisdom, developing further that discernment that we have. Wisdom circles are a very different animal than meetings, a very different animal than masterminds. They're a way of really tapping into collective wisdom. So it's not about advice. It's not about problem solving. It's a space to listen, reflect, and uncover deeper insights.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about your book was at the end of every chapter, you pose questions that help us kind of step into this visioning a little bit more. Coaching questions, I'm sure, because you're a coach. And that was very helpful. So I just wanted to highlight that if anyone's interested, because that really helped me. Even some of the questions okay, because then it started formulating the vision. If wisdom had a voice and it was speaking to today's leaders or to all of us listening, what do you think it would say?
Don't let artificial intelligence lead the way. Let artificial intelligence be the catalyst for an age of wisdom.
Love that. And if we could take one step that would help us skill build in cultivating, leading into the age of wisdom, what's one thing that we could do?
I'm going to give you a biased answer. Read the book and pay attention to the questions.
Okay.
Because the answer, and I'll go back to coaching for a moment. When I have a new client, what I always tell them is I have a lot of experience, I have a lot of wisdom, I have a lot of lessons learned from getting it right, and a lot learned from getting it wrong. What I don't have is the right answer for you. The first right answer for Amy is going to be very different than the first right answer for Sandra or Judy or Bill or anyone else. That's why I'm with a bias saying read the book, because it will help you find where your first step forward might be.
So many good questions. One of which I'll just share because I noted this question that I thought was a great one for everyone to consider. The question is, how clearly do I understand what our current and future workforce values most? And how does that shape the work we offer? I mean, they're very well thought out questions. And we were wrapping up into like if wisdom had a voice and all things, but now I'm backtracking because I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask you this. And I really wanted to ask you this. You mentioned there are things we need to unlearn. And I think that's what I've been trying to peel back throughout the conversation. If there was one or two things that you think we need to unlearn, what would that be?
So again, this is a generalization. It's not going to apply to everyone, but to unlearn the belief that as a leader, you need to have all the answers. To unlearn the belief that as a leader, you shouldn't be acknowledging mistakes that you've made. To unlearn that the belief that technology alone can provide solutions. I think those are three that at least one of them probably hits most of your listeners.
So good. Love all of them. Love all of them. Okay. Well, we are going to pull a card for everyone listening from the Create Magic at Work Journal Prompt Card Deck. So no matter when you hear this episode, this message is for you. You get a message for the week. Brian's going to answer a question on the fly for us. Let's see what we get. Trying to feel the magic. Ooh, we got authenticity. So the affirmation is, I bring my whole self to all situations, including work. Perhaps this is a call to start bringing our wisdom to work instead of just systems management skills. So, Brian, for everyone listening, what is an action that we can take this week that will help us tap into our authenticity and bring our whole selves to all situations, including work?
What is it about yourself? What is it about myself that I have been hesitant to share with others? And I would invite, as each of us thinks about that, to think about how that has limited our ability to bring the full value that we have to offer to our jobs. And then the action step is, what is one thing we can do, and or who is one person that we can do that thing with that helps us be just a little bit more authentic tomorrow than we were today.
Thank you so much, Brian, for sharing your book, Leading into the Age of Wisdom, with all of the Create Magic at Work listeners. We will have the link to the book in the show notes. So please support Brian and grab that copy and use those questions in the end of each section to really get thinking about how we can start leading into the age of wisdom and claiming that positively. So Brian, thank you so much for being a guest. How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about your work?
It's Brian, Brian, at transforminglives.coach. And they can also find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and you also have an amazing podcast called Conversations with a Q. So we can drop that link to your podcast as well. And again, thank you for being here today, and thank you for sending some magic to everyone.
Thank you so much, Amy. I really enjoyed the conversation.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.